Dogs are known as man's best friend. Down the centuries, our four-legged friends have rescued us, worked for us, given us their loyal companionship, and protected us. Recently, 3-year-old Bongi Zondo went missing from his home in KwaZulu-Natal. A short while before his disappearance, he'd been playing on his toy motorcycle outside his house. His family searched frantically for him, and the next morning, the police dog unit joined the search. After many hours, little Bongi was found unharmed. Standing beside him were his family dogs, Billy and Jogger, who had remained with him and watched over him throughout his ordeal. The question is, have we been as good to our canine friends as they've been to us? We set out to discover what it's like to be a dog in the world today. Susan Vosper teaches dogs to be well-mannered and sociable in society.
When a dog goes to school and learns manners, it actually sets them free. They become a nice member of society. You can take them with you wherever you go. It's like children. If they're unruly and horrible, you don't want them with you, and a well-mannered dog is a pleasure to have around.
Learning can be great fun and very rewarding for both dogs and their owners. But these dogs are the lucky ones. They all belong to families who care about them. Sadly, there are thousands of puppies and dogs who have no home and no one to care about them. Imagine, just for a moment, that you were born into this world not as a human, but as a dog, with 4 legs, a wet nose, and a lot of bounce and energy. Perhaps you were destined to be a guide dog, helping blind people to walk around safely. Or a working dog like Phoenix, who helped to find Bongi. Or perhaps you were born simply to be someone's faithful companion. You could be lucky and find a home that is loving and kind. Or you could be unlucky and land up with someone who is cruel and unkind, or is simply ignorant and just doesn't care. We asked Julia Evans of the Animal Welfare Society to explain why so many puppies and dogs end up in the Society's kennels.
People have no concept of what it means to actually own an animal. So they race out and they obtain a puppy, lose interest in it very quickly without realizing that it needs fresh food and water every day, needs a lot of attention, it needs training. 6 months later, the puppy started digging holes in the garden, running up and down the fence, barking incessantly, driving them and their neighbors insane. And the easiest and most convenient method for them to get rid of the dog is to dump it at their local animal welfare.
We visited the Animal Rescue Organization to ask Dr. Ayub Banderker about his work there as a veterinary surgeon.
Vets are animal doctors that see to the health and well-being of animals. We treat any animals that are injured or sick and relieve their pain and suffering. We also play a very important role in educating the public with regard to the health and well-being of animals and how to keep them healthy.
With so many thousands of stray dogs, one of the most important things a vet can do is to sterilize our pets so we don't have even more unwanted puppies and dogs without a home, food, water, or shelter from the cold, and often ravaged by fleas, ticks, and mange.
Sterilization is an operation we do to remove the reproductive organs of cats and dogs to prevent them from having any kittens or puppies. Our society cannot cope with too many cats and dogs, looking for homes, scrounging around for food, where they end up getting knocked down by cars and starving to death. An overpopulation of cats and dogs in society also causes disease that can be transmitted to man, and so it's very important that owners of pets have their animals sterilized.
Dr. Banderker has a busy schedule, attending to the broken legs of puppies and dogs that have been knocked down by cars. This little dog has to have an anesthetic so that his leg can be set. This little dog also has a broken leg that needs mending. She also has to have an anesthetic so that Dr. Banderker can work on her. Sadly, many people take part in the illegal practice of organized dog fighting. Our visit to Dr. Banderker was interrupted by a victim of this horrible so-called sport being brought in for treatment. Carried out at secret venues, people bet lots of money on which dog will win. One distressed woman said she couldn't bear to hear the cries of dogs being stitched up by their owners after the fights, if they survived the fight. We now know that people who are cruel and violent towards animals are often cruel and violent towards people too. We visited the Sarah Bartman Center for Women and Children and asked the manager, Rosemary Cox, about the link between animal cruelty and domestic violence.
Yes, I do believe there's a link between animal cruelty and domestic violence. Many times when the women come to the center with their children, they cry because the father already beaten up the cats and the dogs at home. And when these things do happen, the family needs to know that they are at risk.
But there's another form of cruelty that has nothing to do with violence, but is simply brought about by people being ignorant of the animal's needs. Professor Johannes Oudendal is one of South Africa's foremost ethologists. That's the word for a person who studies the behavior of animals in order to understand them better.
An ethologist is a very grand name for somebody who studied animal behavior in a scientific way. When I was a little boy, my parents went overseas and they left me in our house with people I didn't know, and they gave me a little dachshund with the name of Trixie. So we became very, very good friends, and we actually bonded as a pair afterwards. I was a veterinarian in private practice, and I've seen many people with their animals, and I've also noticed that they don't understand their animals.
So, how do we begin to understand our dogs?
We can learn a lot just by noticing their body language and try and interpret it and see what it means.